At exactly 17:31 hours on November 4th, 1944, Squadron leader Brance Burbridge climbed into the cockpit of his de Havilland Mosquito night fighter at RAF Swannington. The cold air bit through his flight gloves as the canopy closed. Across occupied Europe, German radar emissions were already filling the sky, invisible signals sweeping the darkness in search of RAF bombers. Inside the Mosquito, those emissions appeared as glowing traces on a radar screen, warning signs of danger and opportunity. Burbridge was only 23 years old, yet the war had already shaped him in ways few could imagine. Before joining the RAF, he had been a conscientious objector, a young man torn between faith and duty. Now, 8 months into frontline service, he had flown 47 combat missions. October alone had been catastrophic for Bomber Command. 217 heavy bombers had been shot down, most by German night fighters. Entire crews vanished into the darkness, never knowing what hit them. Flight Lieutenant Bill Skelton settled into the navigator's seat beside Burbridge. Calm, methodical, and intensely focused, Skelton adjusted the equipment in front of him. He was more than a navigator. He was a hunter's eyes. The radar operator fine-tuned the serrate detector, a modified AI Mark IV system designed not to search for aircraft, but to listen. Instead of sending signals out, it waited silently, detecting emissions from German Liechtenstein radar sets. When enemy night fighters turned their radar on, serrate heard them. Tonight, the screen looked different. Instead of the occasional blip, there were many. Too many. Since September, the situation had grown worse. German night fighters had learned how to merge undetected into RAF bomber streams. Flying below the bombers, they used upward-firing cannons known as Schräge Musik. Lancaster and Halifax crews never saw the attackers. Bombers simply exploded from below, flames ripping through wings and fuel tanks. In the Battle of Berlin alone, Bomber Command lost 574 aircraft. Most fell to night fighters. The ground crews at Swannington knew the numbers by heart. Every night they watched mosquitoes lift into the dark. Some returned. Some did not. No. 100 Group had been formed for one purpose: stop the slaughter. 7 squadrons of Mosquito night fighters, equipped with electronic detection gear, sent deep into enemy airspace. Their mission was brutally simple: hunt the hunters, detect German night fighters using their own radar emissions, destroy them before they ever reached the bomber streams. Since December 1943, the group had claimed 257 enemy aircraft destroyed. The price had been high. 70 Mosquitoes lost. Wooden aircraft against steel, speed against numbers. Burbridge started the Merlin engines. The airframe vibrated as power surged through the aircraft. He had joined No. 85 Squadron. In July 1943, after spending a year as an instructor, his first tour had been modest: 1 probable kill, 1 damaged aircraft. Then he was paired with Skelton. Everything changed. Skelton's mastery of the serrate system gave them an edge few crews possessed. Their first confirmed victory came in February, a Me-410 destroyed over the Channel. By April, Burbridge had 5 victories. By October, 14. Tonight, they were flying a high-level intruder patrol southeast of Cologne. The briefing had been clear. Bomber Command was attacking Bochum. German night fighters would scramble from airfields across the Ruhr. When they did, mosquitoes would be waiting. The engines roared. The Mosquito lifted into the night. The Mosquito crossed the English coast at low altitude, skimming beneath radar coverage before climbing steadily over Belgium. By the time they reached 15,000 feet, the continent lay beneath them, dark and hostile. Skelton studied his screens. The AI Mark X radar scanned forward. Serrate listened silently. Somewhere ahead, German night fighters were taking off. Men with dozens of missions behind them. aces with 20, 30 kills. They had altitude. They had numbers. They had experience. For the first time, they were the prey. At 19:04 hours, Skelton saw it. A contact, 4 miles out, crossing starboard to port. Burbridge adjusted course, easing in behind the signal. Serrate worked by detecting emissions between 490 and 600 megahertz, the frequencies used by German Liechtenstein radar. It gave bearing, not range. Distance had to be judged by signal strength alone. As they closed, Skelton spoke softly. Small corrections. Left 2 degrees. Hold. Signal strengthening. At 1,500 feet separation, Burbridge saw it. A dark shape against a darker sky. Night binoculars confirmed the silhouette. Junkers WWII. The twin-engine night fighter carried a crew of 3 and enough firepower to tear a bomber apart in seconds. 4 20mm cannons, multiple machine guns. Some carried Schrager music. The German crew was hunting, radar sweeping forward, blind to anything behind them. Burbridge closed to 1,000 feet. Armed the 4 Hispano cannons in the belly, 700 rounds total. Ammunition discipline mattered. Short bursts. Precision. At 800 feet, the Ju-88 began a gentle turn. Burbridge followed perfectly. Ground control was vectoring the German toward the bomber stream. He would never get there. At 400 feet, Burbridge placed the gun sight on the port engine. His philosophy had never changed. Aim for engines, not cockpits. Stop the machine. Give the crew a chance. 3 seconds. The cannons roared. Tracer arced forward. The port engine erupted in flames instantly. The Ju-88 rolled violently and dove away, fire streaming behind it. Skelton confirmed the kill at 19:06 hours. German records later showed the aircraft crashed nearby. The pilot survived. The rest did not. No time to watch. Another contact was closing fast. The second engagement came minutes later. Another Ju-88, then another. Precision attacks. Engines first. Fire. Impact. 2 destroyed in 11 minutes. Then Skelton's screen filled with signals. Multiple contacts. 6, 7. Orbiting near Bonn-Hangelaar airfield. A major night fighter base south of Cologne. Burbridge made a decision few pilots would dare. He joined the orbit. The Mosquito slipped into the German formation, flying in perfect darkness among enemy aircraft. One fighter 1,500 feet ahead, another 1,800 feet behind. The Germans had no way to tell friend from foe. Their radar searched outward, not sideways, not behind. For 90 seconds they flew with the enemy. Then Burbridge struck. A Bf-110 exploded under cannon fire, spiraling into the ground. Chaos followed. The formation scattered. Warnings flooded German radios. One aircraft turned toward them. The final fight came head-on. At night, at closing speeds over 400 knots, Burbridge held course. At 200 yards, he fired everything. The Ju-88 disintegrated in flame. 4 German night fighters destroyed in 37 minutes. When Burbridge turned the Mosquito northwest and pushed the throttles forward, the immediate danger began to fade. But the consequences of what had just happened were only beginning. Behind them, over German soil, 4 night fighters burned or lay shattered in fields and forests. 4 crews that would never rise again to intercept bomber streams. 4 aircraft removed from a system that depended on experience, coordination, and fear. As the Mosquito slipped away from Cologne and crossed back over Belgium, Skelton focused on his screens, logging times, bearings, and estimated crash locations. The cockpit was calm now, but both men knew what they had done was unprecedented. Most night fighter crews considered one victory on a sortie exceptional. Some flew entire tours without a single confirmed kill. Burbridge and Skelton had destroyed 4 enemy aircraft in less than 40 minutes, deep inside hostile airspace, without a single hit taken. By the time they crossed the North Sea, the weight of it began to settle in. They landed at RAF Swannington just after 20-30 hours. The Mosquito rolled to a stop under dim airfield lights, ground crew already running toward them. As the engines shut down and the canopy opened, the cold night air rushed in, carrying with it disbelief. 4 kills, 1 crew, 1 sortie. The news moved faster than either man expected. By midnight, intelligence officers were already comparing reports, correlating radar plots, and checking intercepted German communications. By morning, it reached Bomber Command Headquarters. Air Chief Marshal Arthur Bomber Harris read the report himself. He did not need exaggeration or embellishment. The facts alone were staggering. 4 confirmed night fighters destroyed. Serrate detection used offensively. Enemy formations infiltrated undetected. Ammunition expenditure minimal. Results decisive. More important than the score was the proof. The theory behind 100 Group had finally been validated beyond argument. Mosquito intruders could do more than disrupt. They could dominate. They could reach into the heart of the German night fighter system and tear it apart before the intercept even began. Within days, changes followed. Crews from other squadrons were summoned to briefings. Burbridge and Skelton were asked to explain everything: how they read Serrate signals, how they judged range without distance data, how they matched speed and altitude inside enemy orbits, when to fire, when to hold, how to conserve ammunition, how to escape once surprise was lost. What had seemed reckless on November 4th became doctrine by mid-November. German losses reflected it almost immediately. In October 1944, Bomber Command had lost 217 aircraft. In November, that number dropped to 152. German night fighter effectiveness fell sharply. Pilots complained of unseen attackers. Crews reported aircraft exploding without warning during patrols or on approach to base. Fear spread through the Luftwaffe's night fighter force. The Germans gave it a name: Mosquito Schreck, Mosquito Terror. Night fighter pilots began limiting radar use, trying to avoid detection. But without radar, they were blind. With radar, they were hunted. The system that had once given them dominance had become a liability. Every sweep of the antenna might reveal their position to a mosquito lurking in the dark. By December, intruder operations intensified. Mosquitoes loitered near German airfields for hours, waiting. The most dangerous moment for a night fighter was no longer combat over the bomber stream. It was landing, gear down, flaps extended, low speed, no escape. That was when the hunters struck. Burbridge and Skelton continued flying. On December 12th, they destroyed another Bf-110 and a Ju-88 near Essen. On December 23rd, another Bf-110 fell to their guns near Koblenz. Their victory total climbed steadily, quietly, relentlessly. By the end of the year, it stood at 20. They had surpassed the record of Group Captain John Cat's Eyes Cunningham, the most famous RAF night fighter ace of the war. Cunningham himself had once commanded Burbridge. The student had surpassed the master, not through aggression, but through innovation and discipline. The night war was changing, and the Germans knew it. The war ended. Both men left the RAF. Both turned to theology. Burbridge worked with youth for decades. Skelton became a priest. They rarely spoke of the war, but the mathematics remained. 21 German night fighters destroyed meant over 1,000 RAF airmen who came home alive. Innovation had won. And on one night in November 1944, the hunters became legends.